What are your legal rights if new strains of COVID cause travel disruption and flight cancellations, stopping you from going on holiday? I'm Daniel Barnett, a barrister based in central London and the presenter of the LBC Radio Legal Hour. In this video, I'll explain your options if an airline cancels your flight, if you want to cancel your flight, or if you're unable to fly because you're self-isolating or in lockdown. Where your flight is cancelled, you're in a strong position to obtain a refund. You're protected by a piece of law known as Regulation 261/2004, or the Flight Compensation Regulation. Now, the regulation applies in three circumstances: if your flight was due to leave the UK, if your flight was due to land in the UK and is operated by a UK or EU airline, or if your flight was due to land in an EU state and is operated by a UK airline. Now, under Articles 5 and 8 of the regulation, you have a right to reimbursement within 7 days of the full cost of the ticket at the price at which it was bought. Where your flight was part of a package holiday, your refund's due within 2 weeks. You must be reimbursed the actual cost of the flight unless you give the airline your signed agreement to receive vouchers or other services instead. That's Article 7.3. If you do accept a voucher, which might be attractive if you've been offered more than the value of the original ticket, bear two things in mind. First, always check when the voucher expires before accepting, and second, note that ATOL, the Air Travel Organisers Licensing, doesn't protect flight-only bookings, which means you won't be refunded if the airline subsequently becomes insolvent and you've just got a voucher. As an alternative to a cash refund, Article 8 gives you the right to fly under comparable conditions to the original destination at the earliest opportunity, or subject to availability of seats at a later date at your convenience. Now, if you've travelled abroad and your return flight is cancelled or postponed, Article 9 also obliges the airline to reimburse you for all necessary accommodation and travel between the airport and the hotel. Under ordinary circumstances, Article 7 also entitles you to between £220 and £520 of additional compensation. The exact amount depends upon how long your journey was in terms of distance and also the exchange rate, because it's technically calculated in euros. So it's between £220 and £520 of additional compensation if your flight's cancelled less than 2 weeks before the scheduled departure date. But this doesn't apply if the operator can prove that the cancellation is caused by extraordinary circumstances which could not have been avoided even if all reasonable measures had been taken. Now, the Civil Aviation Authority states in its guidance for passengers that where the government is advising against travel to a destination or a local lockdown has been put in place, this is likely to qualify as an extraordinary circumstance, meaning no additional compensation is payable. The Civil Aviation Authority also considers that decisions to close airspace or to place restrictions on passengers are likely to fall into this category, as may a decision to cancel a flight because of the economic and environmental consequences of operating flights with only a few passengers on board. Although the Civil Aviation Authority guidance isn't binding, obtaining additional compensation in addition to a refund after a coronavirus-related cancellation is going to be very much an uphill struggle, and you'll probably lose. As I record this in mid-December 2021, there are no countries currently on the red list. But what happens if the red list comes back and the government adds your destination to it, so travelling becomes much more onerous? Even more likely, what if the destination country still allows people in, but introduces a lockdown or a partial lockdown, meaning the holiday experience isn't what you signed up for? Well, unless your flight is part of a package holiday, the answer depends very much on the terms of the contract that you ticked a box agreeing to when you booked your flight. Let's look at the position first if you booked the flight alone, so not as part of a package holiday. The only thing that matters here are the terms of your contract. There's almost no chance you'll be entitled to a refund unless the flight is actually cancelled. Many airlines currently have flexible rebooking policies that allow you to postpone your flight or sometimes claim a voucher without paying rebooking fees, although if your new flight's more expensive, you'll still have to pay the difference. Some airlines only waive rebooking fees if you postpone at least 7 days before your flight. And in some cases, they'll only waive fees if there's a travel ban to your destination, but other airlines have more generous booking policies. Check your contract or check the airline's website for fuller details. Now, if your flight's part of a package holiday, you're in a stronger position to insist on a refund. Regulation 12.7 of the Package Travel and Link Travel Arrangement Regulations 2018 gives you the right to terminate your contract without paying a fee if, and I quote, unavoidable and extraordinary circumstances occurring at the place of destination or its immediate vicinity significantly affect the performance of the package. Now, if a lockdown or mandatory quarantine is introduced in the destination country, this will almost certainly amount to unavoidable and extraordinary circumstances and entitle you to a full refund. ABTA, the Trade Association for Travel Agents, also considers this provision applies where a country is red listed on your planned date of departure, because where a country is added to the red list, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office also advises against all travel to it. You can claim your refund at any point before the holiday begins. Now, although mandatory quarantine or lockdown in the destination country probably amount to extraordinary circumstances at the place of destination, quarantine on return to the UK will not do so. So the right to cancel and get a refund, if you'd have to quarantine when you come back, only arises if quarantine or lockdown is imposed in the destination country, not in the UK. In a moment, I'll discuss what happens if you don't want to travel. And if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe to this channel and click on the notification bell to receive alerts for my latest explainer videos. You don't have to, I'd like you to. It helps the YouTube algorithm find me. I'll give you 4 seconds to do it. If you wouldn't mind, please. 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. If you've simply decided not to travel, then your rights depend on the contract that you entered into when you bought the flight. In other words, the terms and conditions you agreed to when you tick that box. Flexible booking policies many airlines adopted after the first wave of the pandemic mean you may well be able to rebook without a fee, but it all depends on your airline's policy. If the airline refuses you the right to cancel or you don't want to rebook, bear in mind that the airline may eventually cancel the flight if it becomes unviable to run. This means it might be worth waiting to see whether they do cancel it rather than rebooking immediately, because if they do cancel it, you get a full refund. But if you do decide to wait, make sure you're not caught out by any deadline for rebooking or any deadline for claiming a voucher. Where your flight is part of a package holiday and the Omicron wave has led to a significant change in the nature of the package, you may be able to argue this amounts to unavoidable and extraordinary circumstances that entitles you to a full refund, but it's not an easy argument to win, and you'll probably have to take your chances in front of a small claims judge. At the time of recording this video, we've just gone to Plan B in the UK, and nobody really knows whether the government will take further measures in response to Omicron. If there is a legally mandated lockdown that prevents you from using a flight you've already booked and paid for, the legal position is far from certain, and the courts have yet to clarify the matter. During previous lockdowns, Ryanair and British Airways offered only rebookings, or in BA's case a choice of rebooking or voucher, only rebookings, or in BA's case a voucher, to customers who were prevented from taking up their flights because of the lockdown restrictions then in place. Now, the Competition and Markets Authority took the view this might be unlawful. So in June 2021, the CMA launched enforcement action. But they then closed the case in October after they concluded that consumer protection law, and I quote, does not clearly cover whether people should be refunded when their flight goes ahead, but they are legally prohibited from taking it. And the Competition and Markets Authority further concluded that the law does not provide passengers with a sufficiently clear right to a refund to justify its continued legal action against British Airways and Ryanair. In practice, this means if your airline doesn't offer you a cash refund, you're unlikely to be able to obtain one. If you're unable to fly because you're self-isolating, your legal rights depend on the contract agreed when you purchased your tickets, which varies from airline to airline. There's no statutory right to a refund, and no UK airlines are known to offer a refund, although many will allow you to rebook or give you a flight voucher for a future booking. Some travel insurance policies cover loss sustained because you've been forced to self-isolate. Some only apply if you or a family member are ill with COVID, while others, more expensive ones, also apply if you're required to self-isolate after a close contact has tested positive. I'm Barrister Daniel Barnett. Remember to subscribe for more simple explainers on English law. You might like this on lost luggage. And here's my response to an LBC caller who forgot his child's PCR test before flying abroad. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.